we go. The PlayStation 1. The PlayStation 1. The PlayStation 1 dominated the whole freaking PlayStation play. The PlayStation 1. The PlayStation 1. The PlayStation 1 dominated the whole freaking PlayStation 1. Can't get smart with me on this one. PS1 is far better than the Saturn. It has more games, a decent controller, and a popular reception. I'm on the critics! Peace out and deuces beyond the infinite. Well, more Doom, and well, it's obviously more Doom. Specifically, we're talking about a game that was released for the Nintendo 64 back in 1997. This game is called Doom 64, and it offers a wonderful soundtrack, excellent graphics, decent gameplay, even though it's identical basically, and not to mention the fact that the game's control scheme is also really good as well. There's something about Doom 64 that just made me, I don't know, it just kind of made me very addicted to it for some reason. It's one of those games that you can play numerous times and never get sick of it. Even when I was making footage so that way I can make it for this review, I had trouble trying to stop playing the game. I wanted to keep playing. I was literally that freaking excited, or at least in this case, having fun. But seriously though, Doom 64 does offer a really good and thick and moody atmosphere, I'll have to give it that. But it did feature some changes that weren't even seen in the original Doom stuff. Like, for example, and there's a bunch, we're going to compare and contrast this to other Doom releases. First off, we're going to compare this to the original PlayStation 1 ports. Remember my review where I actually reviewed that game? Well, now I'm here to talk about Doom 64. Now there's one thing about Doom 64 that you probably noticed. The sound effects are literally the same. No, literally, no, not exact, no, not almost, no. The sound effects are literally the same. I'm not making this up. I mean, this actually works for me because I don't mind it. I mean, the sound effects in the PlayStation 1 ports of Doom were great. Another comparison between the two that the two have in common is the fact that the music does not have heavy metal music, but rather has music that was composed by Aubrey Hodges, which is one of video gaming's best video gaming composers, who created one of the best underrated soundtracks in gamedom, if that makes sense. Anyway, Doom 64 also has a change in sprites as well. Now, even though the gameplay is identical, the game actually does have different sprites and stuff. It features a different 3D environment. It also features different sprites of the same weapons that were used in previous games. Like, for example, the shotgun, the super shotgun, the plasma gun, the BFG, etc. Not to mention, every item sprite also changed as well. The supercharge also changed sprites. Basically everything in this game changed sprites, even though the gameplay is identical. Which is something that people actually do like, because they did like the gameplay and the way that it was played. But here, it just feels more fun. I don't know why. Not to mention the fact that when I was playing the game, there was not a hint of lag, like, at all. This was something that the PlayStation port had. It had a laggy frame rate. I mean, then again, I still agree that even though the PlayStation 1 port of Doom is my favorite console port of Doom, that would probably be the only issue, and also the exception of a multiplayer split screen kind of mode. This game also doesn't have that neither, which sucks. You wanna know what's even more shocking? The intro actually shows a bunch of Doom guys fighting a ton of monsters, which looks super badass. But yet there's no multiplayer mode in this game, which sucks. It's the only bummer to the game. Another bummer to the game is the fact that you still can't look up, crouch, or jump. I mean, then again, the PlayStation 1 port also kind of had this, but you gotta keep in mind, Williams actually modified those levels. Not to also mention the fact that in the PC version, you can actually jump and look up and down. Another comparison about Doom 64 is the fact that the game at least in terms of the weapon sprites, are kind of similar to Quake, even though Quake had actual 3D weapons. But the reason how come I'm taking Quake into comparison is because, well, don't you know how in the original Doom Guy's hands are actually shown, but here you don't see Doom Guy's hands at all, nor his face. Instead, you get to see a weapon sprite of the weapon itself, which is like Quake. Except that in Quake, you also get to see the guy's face, kind of like the old Doom games, which is also something that this game does not have. It does not have a status bar, well, except for the health and the armor, I suppose, as well as the ammo count and the keys. But still though, just keep in mind that Williams, or shall I say in this case Midway, did make a bunch of changes here. Now, even though the game did make some alternate changes, there were other things that were kinda crappy. The one big example is the fact that since this game is basically a standalone game, there's an added emphasis on puzzle solving. And even though this would have been cool, this was actually a huge problem here, because there were more traps, and basically other stuff. More specifically also traps that also let out a bunch of enemies, like for example lost souls coming out of nowhere and killing you. This is something that I had never experienced though, because in the original PlayStation 1 port of Doom, the lost souls really weren't all that powerful. But in this game, Doom 64, the lost souls are incredibly powerful. Like if they strike up on you, you could probably go to dead in a few seconds flat. They are that strong. Basically, I like to say that the lost souls in this game are overpowered. But what more can I say? It's still a good game. It's still a great game, especially if you like a challenge. In terms of horror exclusive to the Nintendo 64, Doom 64 is without a doubt the best horror game on the console, at least exclusively. Trust me, there are other, and not to mention, there are other shooters that people say are way better than Doom 64, but if you're still a fan of science fiction mixed in with a blend of horror and stuff, then this game is definitely for you. Especially if you did in fact play the original Doom games, or at least grew up with it, then Doom 64 will definitely meet your needs. Especially considering the fact that it's a great port on Doom 64, at the Nintendo 64, sorry. And then also the fact that it also has an incredible control scheme, and you can even change it to GoldenEye's controls if you want to, because it does feature customizable controls, and you can save the game on a control pack, something that you couldn't do in the PlayStation 1 port of Doom, where you were stuck with passwords. The Doom 64 still uses passwords, but you can still save them onto your control pack without the need of typing it all in again and stuff. I mean, I never actually got the chance to actually do this, but at least that's as far as my knowledge goes. But I really have nothing much else to say about this game. I did already mention earlier that the music in this game, just like in Doom 1 for the PlayStation 1 and Final Doom, was that the music was composed by Aubrey Hodges, where he offers a thick and moody, ominous atmosphere, having groans and everything. He also has a fan page where you guys can go purchase his music from a list of games that he composed music for. And you guys can give the man a couple of bucks, at least help support him, so that way the next time when he ever needs to make music, you guys are not only purchasing some of his awesome music, but also you're also helping him out for other future projects. The same thing kind of applies with the Shizzle Network, because that's kind of my shtick here. That's pretty much, I want to put the review to end here. There's really nothing much to say about Doom 64. It's basically what I expected it to be honest. But there was just something about it that just kept me from playing this. That kept me actually playing this. What do I mean by that? Well, ever since I started playing Doom, there was something about Doom that just had its hooks at me. Every single time when I picked up the controller and started playing Doom, I always had trouble trying to stop playing the game. No matter how many times I played Doom, I always end up playing it non-stop. Like, even while recording gameplay for this one, as you can see on the review, I had trouble trying to stop playing. I wanted to continue playing the game. But I got a lot of time and a lot of other projects on my hands to actually do this. But that's pretty much my shtick there. That's pretty much it. Yeah, just pizza and juices me out of the event. Sega Saturn, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters but the Sega Saturn. If you haven't got your Sega Saturn, go out and buy one. It's worth getting.